You don't have to have a $10 million tool. You need to figure out, how do I improve the value of this thing? The biggest implementation for me on AI is to make people feel like I'm paying attention. Yeah, I mean, AI is going to make trillionaires over this decade.
I'm kind of, I just keep continuously adding new stuff to the studio. I definitely want to be doing more stuff in person, like you're talking about with Fresh and Fit, Patrick Bet-David, Stephen Graham Stephan. They're all doing, like all the big shows are in person.
Yes. But I've talked to the big thing that I see, and you'll probably see this with your channel, just social media side, is it depends on your audience mix. As you become Fresh and Fit, Patrick Bet-David, Graham Stephan, you need to go with a wider audience. So in those situations, you need to appeal to a larger audience. And that always needs to be, in my mind, that needs to be your goal. I want all the people. But people don't know this. I've got a twin brother, and he's on YouTube. And I've got 1.73 million subs right now. He's got $225,000. He makes way more money than I do. And people are like, no, that can't be true. I said, no, I've seen his AdSense. I've seen his product sales. He crushes me.
That's because the audience he appeals to is...
The audience he appeals to has a lot more money than the average person that dreams of owning a vending machine. So the average person watches my channel. They're 23 years old. They're a man. They're currently enrolled in college, and they have not a lot of money. And they're watching content to figure out, what can I do to make money while I'm in college? What can I do to make money where I'm at in life currently? That's my average person. My brother, his average person makes $75,000 to $100,000 per year. They're married. They've got a couple kids, and they're trying to find ways to improve the quality of their life through expensive appliances. And that's his mix. So his average person's almost making six figures. My average person's making, $25,000 a year, let's say. So with that audience, you've also got to figure out, if you're doing a podcast, who's my average person? My average person's white collar. They're making $200,000 a year, and they solely listen to me on the road between their house and work. They're not watching me. They're listening to me. They're consuming my content through audio only. So they don't care whether it's in person. They don't care whether the person's on a Zoom call or not. Now, as time goes on, you need to figure out how to get more people than just that $200,000 a year person. But I run into people, their whole life cycle, social media is going after that niche and just getting deeper into it. And then they optimize that traffic, those subscribers, those people that are interested so severely that they crush people like me. And, like we talked about Ryan Pineda, Fresh and Fit, Patrick Bet-David, they are at their absolute top of their games, and they're doing so well. But I run into other guys that are in the 500,000 sub range-ish, and they decide to go too broad, too quick. And I'm not going to name any names because I love them, but great people. But they decided to go for the broad range of people too quick because they would say, I'm going to follow specifically, I am going to follow the Patrick Bet-David playbook.
Right.
And I'm going to turn my content. I'm going to make it a little more political. I'm going to go a little more right-leaning. I'm going to go this, and this because Patrick Bet-David did it. And it crushed their channels because they were too small. They tried to go for a broad appeal when they were going so well for XYZ community, finance content, podcast. And then they
that rings pretty true to me, Brandon, because I've kind of done that, but I kind of don't care. You know what I'm saying?
And if that's what you want to do, then more power to you.
I'll give you a perfect example. I started making YouTube videos about 5-6 years ago, and most of my YouTube videos not getting a ton of views. And then I made this video. It was about hiring your first virtual assistant. It got 500,000, 600,000 views. Yeah. And to me, that was YouTube saying, hey, Mark, you're the virtual assistant guy. That's what you need to make more content out of. Mm-hmm. I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be the virtual assistant guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm more interested in, I don't know. I definitely want to help business owners. I'm on a mission to help business owners or people own their own businesses. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to be typecast, so to speak.
And I would say you don't want to be super typecast, but you also need to understand like who your audience is and how you can connect with them and how you can grow in your connections to people. Because it's like, for me, I don't want to be the laundromat guy. I mean, it's nice, but
you broaden out. It's not just laundromats.
Laundromats, car washes, vending machines, self-storage. It's a lot of different things. And that's because the laundromat, I only got into laundromats in 2019. I've been in real estate since 2006. So I've done all these other businesses and lots of other businesses that I don't generally talk about because I don't do them anymore. Like Ryan Pineda's got this couch flipping thing. I've used to do tons of like Gary V garage sale stuff. Not content, but just making money going to a garage sale. Let's fix something. I want $5,000 this month. Let's make $5,000 through yard sales. And I used to do that. And it's one of those things where if you can figure out like what has the most value to the internet right now and then grow off of that, you'll be okay. Because when you're hot, there's a small time window. And it's for YouTube, I don't know what it is now, but it used to be like for 3 weeks, if you have a viral video, for 3 weeks you can do no wrong. And it's like, I don't care. You do a virtual assistant video, you can do a food blog within 3 weeks, and it's probably not going to it's not going to kill you. Short form content, right now on TikTok, you can do anything you want to. It doesn't have to be related. It'll still go well. Just you can throw anything against the wall. YouTube, after about 3 weeks from what I've seen, if your follow-up videos don't re-engage your base, you'll get crushed.
That's kind of what I've been doing is short form videos. I've been really focused on AI and automation for a number of reasons, but it's almost becoming too diluted. When I first started making those ChatGPT videos, there was almost no competition. And now all of a sudden everyone's making ChatGPT videos. But quite frankly, I don't care because once I started using AI in my business, I quit my day job 4 months later. I've seen the power, I've seen the impact.
And then it's one of those things where, from my standpoint, when I talk to people about automation and ChatGPT and just general, like either talking about general AI topics or niche specific AI topics, I find that they're really, really surface level and they haven't started talking about the bigger implications. Because it's like, when I did your Google form to sign up for this, it's like, what's one AI topic that you can talk about? I'm like, I'll just talk about blue collar AI implementations inside blue collar businesses, because all of the people that I see talking about ChatGPT, it's very surface level. And, to be frank with you, a lot of it's just regurgitated content they watched from somebody else. They probably had ChatGPT rewrite it, and they're throwing it on because, and no offense to anybody, but a lot of the people that I run into are just talking heads on social media. Yeah. They don't actually have any experience with whatever it is they're talking about.
They're not practitioners. They're not executing. They're not actually doing the thing.
And it's, I'm not I will never call anybody out because I like people in a general sense way too much. But I run into people and I have these conversations either in the finance world, the real estate world. And I'm like, they're talking in their videos about, let's go in and replace this wall. And I'm like, you've never tore out a wall in your life. Like, how much drywall dust have you actually had on your body? And you're telling people, let's just go, we're going to knock this wall down and we're going to replace it with XYZ and we're going to make X amount of dollars. I'm like, you don't know what's behind that wall.
But, so don't disagree. But I think it depends on the way you present yourself and present your experience, right? Are you the expert or are you documenting the journey? Which I think is probably one of the reasons why you've been successful with the Investment Joy channel. Is because you started this, 2013, 2012?
I bought the domain back in 2013 because it was nice and highly brandable.
Sure.
And I started documenting my rental properties. And no one really cared. I had a blog in 2013, and it was like, okay, I was on Bigger Pockets all the time, talking on their forums about, hey, this is what I do in real estate. I've got this blog. No one really cared. Then 2017 started the YouTube channel.
So you'd already were kind of established at that point.
Yeah, well, I mean, from 2017 to 2019, I had 2,000 subscribers. And I was posting up content pretty regularly, but it was awful, number one. And I really wasn't looking at building social media as a business. I was like, I had this long-term goal, or this goal of, if I could make $100 a day off social media, that'd be cool. Make $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year. I'd be happy with a side hustle, makes $100 a month, then I put all this effort in, just establishing myself and try to figure out what does YouTube want. And it was good thumbnails, high retention rates, decent audience engagement. And I mean, that was what I was trying to do in 2019. It's still what you have to do today. And it was like, okay, if I can iterate a little better every video, watch my metrics, improve, then I'll be okay. And I think within a year and a half, I can get to $100 a day. Then in October 2019, I released I had a video go viral, and it made me $27,000 in 15 days.
Which video was that?
I bought a laundromat. Here's how much it makes. I released that one July 2019, did nothing. Then at that point, you had to be monetized to be considered for virality. Like, it was impossible to hit the trending page or browse page in general. It's not true anymore, but you had to be monetized. And it was like I finally got monetized after all this work. And within a week, that video that I had released forever, in July, went viral. And it made $27,000 between, I think it was October the 10th and the end of October 2019. And I was like, I just did 1 year worth of my revenue goal in 20 days.
So I don't know if your wife had the same experience that my wife had, because when I first started making all these YouTube videos, my wife was like, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. I don't get it. She's a lifelong employee. And I'm sure your wife was probably like, Brandon, what the heck are you doing over here making all these videos? But when you bring home a $27,000 paycheck, I bet that changed the tone just a little bit.
She didn't care.
She didn't care.
I mean, because it was $27,000. For me, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a new business I've started. And I reached my 1 year goal. I set out all this stuff. It was April 2019. Like, that's when I said, I need to build a spreadsheet, and I need to be on track with a 2% per week increase across the board. 2% increase in subscribers, 2% in views, 2% in everything. If I could do 2% per week, just based on the law of compounding averages, I can be where I want to, that $100 a day within a year and a half. And, I told my wife before, I sold a property. We made $50,000 off it. The first one or two, that was cool. But then it's like, okay, you made $27,000 off a YouTube video. Who cares? And for her, it's just like the reality is she never sees the money, because all of my money just gets reinvested anyway. We live very frugally. So the money isn't really important. It's what can that $27,000 do? I can buy cameras. I can buy a studio equipment. I can buy a new computer. I can, that money was gone within 3 months.
You're buying assets.
I'm buying more assets, more things to invest in the business. So for her, it wasn't really changing. And even then, she's starting to come around and like it, because it's the reason I'm in Florida today, is because we wanted to do a cruise, get out of Ohio. And I said, well, we can do cruises when it's cold in Ohio, because I'll go do some filming. I'll write some of it off my taxes. So, it'll be a nice business expense, and I can meet my contacts in Florida. Yesterday I went and looked at a guy making tables in West Palm Beach, and it was really cool. And we're trying to figure out, is there a video here? And I think there is. So I'm being productive down here in Florida, I think a little more so than I would be in Ohio. So for that, she's getting excited. But it's like, when someone will come up to me and say, I watch your videos on TikTok. Oh, I watch your videos on YouTube. We were on the ship, and someone came to me and said, you're the reason I bought a claw machine.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I get the butterflies in my stomach. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. I helped somebody. And that's really all I ever want to do in life, is just help people. The money is whatever it is. The money's hopefully a vehicle to help more people and improve the life of people I'm around. If some of the money is able to be spent on my family, great, because they're the people I'm around the most. But I really want, at the end of the day, I'll die, and I want people to say, Brandon helped me. There's a guy that changed me.
I totally agree with that, because it's very easy to get caught up in the goal when it's really just like, how do I enjoy what I'm doing every day? Like when I was 20 years old, I was like, that's it. Best days are behind me. But I turned 40 last year. This is my favorite year. It was so fun because I get to wake up doing what I love every day, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why I didn't just record VA videos for YouTube all the time, right? Yeah. I knew I wanted to create content. When YouTube's like, hey, you're the VA guy, I was like, nah, I don't think that I would enjoy that. I want to document the journey. I want to talk to people that are crushing in business like yourself. That's what drives me. That's what gets me out of bed. Now AI, holy cow, AI just blows my mind every day.
Yeah, AI is one of those things where it is absolutely as transformational as, in my mind, as the transistor, as in the personal computer, as in the internet, as in mobile phones and mobile technology. To me, it's above. It's probably right in there with the personal computer because it's the implementation. It is the. I remember when Google came out, and that was like the greatest moment, like of me with technology, because now I have something that I can ask, and 70% of the time it's going to give me an answer that's right. And I was like, this is life-changing for me because
Crazy.
now I can get answers. As a kid, I got in trouble tearing apart CB radios that my dad would bring back from driving truck and stuff. And I always wanted to figure out how things worked, but I had such a hard time getting an answer. It was, let's go to the library 2 weeks from now. We lived on a farm. Let's go to the library 2 weeks from now. Maybe I can get a book on microelectronics. Maybe I can get a book on programming. And, it became one of those things with Google of, well, I'm just going to ask a question. Can I find a Ohm's law calculator? I need some conversions. I need to figure out how to calculate capacitance on a capacitor. It's just like these really finite technical questions. It's like, I would have to read through 2 or 3 books or go to school. Now Google's at my fingertips. And now, at my fingertips in front of a computer connected to the internet. Now it's on my phone. And with AI, like, one of the things that I was talking to somebody, I've got some microcontrollers at my office at the Investment Joy studio. And I was like, I really need to, I want a couple signs at my office that say on air recording subscribers. And I want to automate that. But I know I can buy that off Amazon. I want to build it. But it's like, I have to program it. And then one of my subscribers said, well, just have ChatGPT code it for you. And I said, what do you mean by? And they're like, ChatGPT can do everything. I said, yeah, I know it can do everything. They said it's better at coding than it is deep language. And I said, I don't think that's true. And they said, go ask it. ChatGPT, please write the software for an ESP32 to display a message that I can download in a text file to the device over Bluetooth. And it's like 35 seconds later, it has written the actual code to download to the ESP32 with instructions on how to do that. Of go find a USB cord, plug it into your computer, download this program, download it to your device, and do it. I'm like, this is life-changing.
Crazy.
This is crazy. And I mentioned this to my business partner, specifically my car wash guy, and I said, did you know this? And he said, yeah, because we're using it at a nuclear facility right now. They've got a closed, now for national security people, it's a closed environment, very closed environment at this nuclear facility. But the idea is, can you give the average worker that sits there in an excavator or a bucket truck or whatever, something at this nuclear facility, if you gave him the ability within ChatGPT to say, I would kill right now for a device that sits on the outside of my my truck that would tell me the soil moisture. I need to know how wet the water is or how wet the soil is so that when I am picking up dirt, I know exactly how many loads that I can put in the semi so that it doesn't get overloaded. Because if it's over 40,000 pounds, we're going to get fined by the state of Ohio. But if I could have something that could just test the soil moisture, I would be so much more productive as a worker for this nuclear facility. So in a closed loop environment, you could potentially have ChatGPT write the code for a little Raspberry Pi or some other kind of microcontroller that could test the soil moisture. And like I was talking to a guy yesterday. I was doing a consulting call. I offered a guy a free consulting call, and I need to record them because some of these people make me angry. Because he was telling me how he had hired a company to write a software program for this startup he wants to do. And they were only going to charge him $100,000 to do it. And ultimately he's asking me to fund a $6 million business. And he said, yeah, we've got this software company, and they're going to do this software development for us for $100,000. We've already allocated money for it. And I said, you haven't even tried asking ChatGPT or any other organization to make this code for you, because I'm telling you it's $5,000 in a couple hours worth of work.
Wow.
On your end.
Wow.
You didn't even do anything here. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And he became really defensive. And I said, this is obviously why I would never invest in your company, because you didn't even put the effort in to figure out, is this quote for $100,000 piece of software inside your business to do X, Y, Z? I don't want to nail this guy down too much on what business he's in. You didn't even ask, because I'm telling you, this is a simple, easy automation.
Well, he's living like 2 or 3 years in the past. Like over the last 18 months, everything has changed.
Yeah. And well, I agree, but it's also, I feel like if you're really on your game, you're going to know about it. It's like my buddy that I had the conversation with about ChatGPT at the nuclear facility. He's like, we've been doing it for 6 months. I'm like, why wouldn't we?
Wow.
This is life-changing technology. It's going to make our company more efficient. It's going to save tax dollars. It's going to save labor costs. Automations inside this business are going to change our world. Why won't we be doing this? And it's like they're on a $1 billion, $2 billion Department of Energy contract that my buddy's involved in. And I'm like, you mean the government's actually trying to save me money by using ChatGPT? Of course we are. Like, we have to be on budget and under time, otherwise I'm going to lose my job. And my boss is going to lose his job. And my boss's boss, like, he has the company tree, he told me, at his nuclear facility, and President Biden is only like 5 steps ahead of him, because it's Biden, the head of the Department of Energy, and it's like it's his boss under that, or it's his boss's boss. So he's not very far from that, and he's like, we're all going to get fired on the next administration, or we're going to lose our jobs if we don't maintain being on time and on budget in this environment of inflation. And ChatGPT and artificial intelligence is going to help us get there. And we're going to do that through writing code for Raspberry Pis and ESP controllers.
I love that they're actually doing that too, because when I think of government, I just think of a place where money goes to get burned. They just, like, huge bureaucracies, administrative states, wasting money. When I think that they're actually innovating in using the AI, I actually appreciate that.
Some people are. It's like, I don't want to get too political, but I'll get political for a second. Like, I talk to all these people, and I like them, and they're from Europe. And they talk to me about my terrible American healthcare. And that's a tangent I can go on, because my dad was in the VA healthcare system, and he ultimately passed away from a very treatable form of cancer simply due to government bureaucracy. And I talk to these people, and they're like, oh, you need to reform your healthcare. You need to do this. You need to do this. I said, 50 to 60% of American money when it comes to healthcare is essentially spent on administration that artificial intelligence will handle within 10 years.
Yeah.
And they said, what do you mean? I said, have you ever considered what our country would look like if the cost of healthcare like that was reduced by 60%? And I said, it's kind of scary, but go ask your average doctor, nurse, or anybody in the medical field, how much time do you spend on paperwork? And and if they're honest with themselves, they spend more time on doing paperwork and compliance issues than they do actually treating people. And if the person you talk to says, well, no, I spend all my time actually treating people, they are not willing to admit that other people work for them. I have friends, great guy, one of the greatest eye doctors in Southern Ohio. And he's a business owner. He owned a private practice, but he was associated with a very large medical facility. And he said, Brandon, I'm an eye doctor, one of the best in Southern Ohio. I'm like, yeah, you are. Everybody tells me you're the best eye doctor. And he said, Brandon, in my office, I have 5 people doing nothing but paperwork.
Right.
And he said,
right.
He's like, I hate it. He said, I'm glad they have jobs. They don't do anything that's productive other than call patients. The rest of it's insurance bureaucracy with private healthcare, or it's insurance bureaucracy dealing with Medicare and Medicaid.
Well, so that's the other problem here is AI starts to take over more of those jobs. I don't need 5 people in my office. I need maybe 1.
Correct.
What happens with the other 4 people? Where do they go then?
Well, that's I don't want to be too political, but that's going to be, I think, the biggest shock to people, and that's going to be the biggest problem, because a lot of people are going to find in 20 years, let's say, they're not going to have jobs anymore.
Bro, 5 years.
Well,
I think it's going to go fast. Even you talk about your buddy, like when he listens to you and he says, okay, maybe Brandon's right. Maybe I will use a VA in Bangladesh to write the code using ChatGPT, and he saves $95,000. You'd be like, whoa. And then he's going to tell someone, they're going to tell someone, and all of a sudden, you're not going to need coders anymore. All those people who are saying learn to code are going to be like learn to plumb.
Learn to plumb. There's certain things that AI, I don't think will ever be able to outsource. It's going to be a lot of blue collar stuff.
Right.
That has to be hands-on. Plumbers, electrician, concrete workers, excavators. And the demand right now, this very second, for those kinds of jobs is absolutely huge. I'm currently buying a firm, and they are in the blue collar world, and they are making net operating income, millions of dollars. I can talk more about it off air if you're interested, but they're blue collars and blue collar business. And me and my business partner that are acquiring it, we went and looked and said, where is the limitation? And the current limitation in this company is the owner doesn't want to hire anybody. He's in his mid-60s. He's just ready to retire, doesn't want to grow the labor force. And we asked him, what's preventing the labor force? Well, it's hard for me to contact people to come work for me. It's okay, well, I'll fix that within 24 hours. I'll just do one TikTok story of, hey, if you're in the Chicago area and you want to make $80 an hour, come work for me. That's all I'm going to say. All I have to say. I'm telling you, that video will get everybody in Chicago will send me a DM.
Power of media.
$80 an hour. I mean, $80 an hour in total compensation per hour in this company. And it's just like they have more business than what they want to do. They're on a 2-year wait list.
Wow.
For jobs.
Wow.
And it's because he can't scale the business because he doesn't want to hire people. He doesn't want to hire people because it takes effort. He feels like it takes effort to recruit it. He doesn't have social media or any media. He doesn't want to hire a recruiter. So those kinds of businesses, I think, are going to be AI resistant. They're not going to be AI proof, but they're going to be AI resistant. Some of like the proposals that I've seen that I think are better. There's a guy, his name's Andrew Yang. He's not certainly aligned with me on a lot of political things, but the thing that he floated that I'm like, I get it. It was just having a tax on general AI. Once we reach general AI, everything that works on an API has to pay a 10 or 20% tax on AI usage. And then that essentially goes back into a Social Security bucket or, I hate the idea in a general sense of universal basic income.
Yeah, I really dislike it because I feel like it sets up a bad incentive structure. Like we need incentives as human beings, right? There's a reason why I'm not eating chocolate every night because I want to try to be healthy, but I will say out of anyone I've heard talk about UBI, Yang kind of got me thinking like, well, maybe that's a solution, but it does make me nervous because humans, we need incentive structures. If I told my kids, if my kids don't have a good incentive structure, they're just going to watch TV all day.
Correct. And I would love to have a conversation. So if some reason you're watching, I'd love to talk to you. But it's like one of those things where I'd love to talk to somebody about my experience of being a low-income landlord. Because I have a lot of tenants that are on a universal basic income called SSID. No offense, guys, but it's like you can hire a lawyer and they'll get you on Social Security for the rest of your life. Like, it's not that expensive. And for the rest of your life, you will not have to work because you're disabled.
Well, isn't there a problem, too? Like, because you're going to be capped at a certain amount of income doing that. But if you go out and get a job, then all of a sudden you lose that funding.
You lose it, which I think is one of the worst things that we have. But and once again, it's not so much a problem that the government has created this monster. They've created a monster that no one understands. My mom is retired. She's on Social Security, not SSID, but regular Social Security. And she's like, I can't have a job. I can't work. I can't make any more money. I am stuck making, $1,350 per month. And my brother and I help her financially. We help her with bills and all this different stuff. And I looked at one of her Social Security statements. I said, Mom, have you ever read this? And she said, yeah. And I said, okay, you've read this. Do you understand what it says? No, I don't understand. I said, Mom, this says that you can make in 1 year $25,000 on top of your SSI before the government starts clawing it back for every dollar over $25,000, for every dollar you make, they'll take 25 to 50 cents of benefits away. So you can make $40,000. You can make up to $40,000 before you lose Social Security. You could, and then you're regularly taxed after that. I said, well, that's not too bad, $40,000 a year.
It's almost like a full-time teacher income.
Yeah. And I had this conversation, and she said, I had no clue I could do this. I said, I started going down this rabbit hole, researching it, and I found out that's kind of the norm.
But then the problem here is it gives it, your goal, your incentive is to reach mediocrity.
Correct. It's not to exceed. And that's the thing that I worry about general artificial intelligence. It's going to come whether I like it or not. And I'm trying to, as a father with 5 kids who cares about people, I'm trying to figure out and helping my kids, what do we do? Next 10 to 20 years is going to be rocking our world. It's going to be one of the most interesting periods of human history. The 20th century, I love history. I love 20th century history. 20th century history was wild. 21st century history is going to be as wild, if not more wild.
We started off the 20th century without cars.
Correct. My one of the stories I love is my great-great-grandpa had a very close relationship with my dad. They loved each other. And my great-great-grandpa said, when I was born, the fastest thing I had ever seen was not a racehorse, but a somewhat fast horse, because they grew up in the hills of Southern Ohio. He said, I've seen some fast horses. And he said, I have now, because he lived through 1969, he said, I've seen a man land on the moon. And he said, if I have seen that change in my lifetime, there's nothing that you shouldn't expect in your lifetime. To my dad,
we can't even predict. I don't think it's impossible. It's impossible to predict.
And that's what he said. He said, I just don't understand this. He said, I remember picking up the newspaper, hearing that someone here in Ohio had flown an airplane that had never taken place in human history. They had hot air balloons, and here, the Wright brothers had been in the airplane. My great great grandfather got shipped over to France in World War I. He was in World War I, and he said I saw a paper report of the Wright brothers taking off in this airplane that flew like 20 miles an hour. That was slow as molasses, and he said I saw fighter battles between the Germans and French overhead. Hundreds of airplanes engage each other in life and death struggles, flying 100 miles an hour. 150 miles an hour in some of those biplanes. And he said, then I started seeing movies of World War II with monoplane fighters going 300 miles an hour, 400 miles an hour. Then I saw them break the sound barrier. I saw them build nuclear bombs. I saw them put a man in space. Now we've put a man on the moon. He's like, nothing's impossible. And, my dad always told me, he's like, I have this expectation, of seeing these things. And he saw some of the things. And I know he was scared to death of artificial intelligence and the idea of, Terminators and things like that. And it's like, now I'm 38 years old, and I'm seeing these things of, there's blessings here and curses. We just got to figure out how to navigate it right. And I'm hopeful. I can't wait to see what happens when they fix administrator issues. We had a conversation about, We've had a conversation about some school districts, and I'm excited to see what happens when teachers and school administration spend less time on administrating and more time on teaching. I think they can do it. I think that there's a huge incentive and desire to teach and help kids more, but a lot of it is spent in poor communications or difficulty in communications. A lot of time is spent on just stuff that we shouldn't be doing. And it's okay that we're doing it.
And I think that's where this becomes interesting, because AI presents all these new potential solutions to historical problems. You bring up teaching, for example. I've got a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. I think about this a lot. Not every kid learns the same. So when you stick 25, 30 kids in a room and you say, hey, we're going to read off the whiteboard for an hour and a half, you're going to lose 75% of the class. Yep. But if you can engage them with a robot or with AI or different programs.
Whatever it is. And it's like, I homeschool my kids, and I love talking to my kids about science, math, STEM stuff. My wife, she's passionate about English, so we have a lot of conflicts because we were both homeschooled growing up, but her mom was a English teacher at a college, and my language skills are mostly from former Kentucky hillbillies, so we have a lot of conflicts, and it's one of those things where she was going over math with the kids, and she's like, here's one of these stupid Common Core books. She's like, this is disgusting and awful and evil. And I said, honey, I understand it. She said, what do you mean? No one understands this stuff. I said, honey, I understand it. I said, because that stuff you hate is exactly how my brain's wired. When they're talking about moving invisible numbers from the left to the right and round up and then reduce it afterwards, I said, that's exactly how my brain works.
Interesting.
And she said, no, it doesn't. I said, yes, it does. I said, this is explaining exactly. I've never been able to put it into words how my brain works when it comes to trying to do math in my head. It isn't the way that you do it. And it's not the way that our girls do it. My son does it the same way. And I look and I talk to these different people in education, in the homeschooling community, in public school community. I'm friends with private school. Like, we got a really great Christian school, and I'm friends with several of the teachers. And they're like, I hate this. I love this. And I have this thing. I said, here's the problem is, from the data that I've seen, 70% of kids in schools are good at learning math, let's say, the way that we did 10 to 15 years ago. And there's another 35% over here in the other thing, in the other side, that the Common Core math works great for, because their brains are wired different and they don't understand it. And it's like, so how realistically would you have a teacher in a classroom teaching 70% of the kids one type of math, 30% of kids another kind of math, and making sure that everybody gets an education that's tailored to how their brain works, so that at the end of the day, they get the best kind of education that's going to actually stick with them. I don't know how you do it other than artificial intelligence.
Well, the artificial intelligence learns, can assess all the previous behaviors. And China, by the way, is going all in on this. I saw this video where they've got all these elementary school kids. There are cameras on them the entire time, so they know when you yawn. They know when you look at your phone. They know when you're looking at the pretty girl in the corner. Also, they have like a brainwave scanner, so they can see how engaged you are. So like, they're going all in. Like, China is going to be mopping the floor with us when it comes to education.
It's going to be really interesting over the next 20 to 30 years, because I'm friends with a lot of people in China, and I see innovation, and I'm like, oh, this is too cool. Oh, there's so many things there. And then I look at the potential for government overreach, and then I also get a little terrified.
Potential?
But yeah.
And that's the advantage of the government overreach. You could say, actually, you're our human test guinea pig. Yeah. We want to build a roadway here. Your house is gone. So
if the government,
you can only have one kid.
If the government's good, it could be great. If the government's terrible, it's pure monstrosity of evil. And it's like, there's benefits to both. And a lot of people won't say, oh no, there's no benefit in society whatsoever to have a dictatorial regime. It's like, I disagree with you. There's some benefits. If there weren't benefits, then people wouldn't stand for it. But if people feel there's benefits, then they'll be okay with it or they'll support it. And it's one of those things where I'm hoping that what'll happen is we end up with a space race in the realm of artificial intelligence. I feel like at some point, or we're there now, or will be in the next year or two, is it'll be China on one side, the United States on the other, with two very different.
We are there now, but to me, it's kind of terrifying. We look at we're getting a little bit off the entrepreneurial topic here, but I think this is important in understanding the context of the world we live in and the solutions that are going to need to be invented. Because if we're trying to solve problems from 10, 15, 20 years ago, that's not work. What are the new problems? That's where you're going to come up with your $1 million idea. It's what are the new problems that I can solve now? But what terrifies me is when people think of war, we think World War II, trench warfare, storming the beach of Normandy, nuclear bombs, things like that. But the future warfare is going to be, our AI programming is much more sophisticated. We're going to hack your power grid, and we're going to shut off the lights for X amount of time.
It's worse than that.
How could it be much more? If you turn off the power, the internet, people are going to be eating themselves within 24 hours.
Well, that'll be it too. But then you can ask artificial intelligence to design me a drone that can be 3D printed that just finds people and kills them. There's a Black Mirror episode about that, but they didn't have AI 3D print the drones.
Well, this is what's happening in Ukraine right now. Drone warfare. Right boom, now. Boom, dropping bombs.
I watch way too many videos of their FPV drones hunting down Russians.
But that's like the Terminator 2 stuff where the robots are making robots and making explosives and then sending them out.
Correct. And that's where it is now. And you're seeing it between Russia and Ukraine, which are both, whether anybody wants to remember it, like Russia's not very industrialized compared to the United States, Western Europe, and especially China. You know, China's GDP is 10 times larger than Russia. So my biggest worry ever would to see somebody like China or the United States go all in on AI for warfare, which was essentially the heart of Terminator, which I love Terminator. That was the heart of that movie is, hey, we put AI in charge of everything, and it just decided to kill us. And that's a fear. It should be a fear. It should be a concern. But we should also be able to look at what happens when every dollar of taxpayer money is multiplied by 3 due to AI for education. You know, education funding is a huge concern, and, you know, huge political fight of we spend too much money on education. We don't spend enough money on education. Our teachers are ineffective. There's too many bullies in school. What happens when the effectiveness of every teacher and the effectiveness of every dollar spent on the education world is multiplied by three times within 5 years? What happens? I don't know what that looks like, but it sounds really cool.
As long as the money is, like you, to your point, is actually used efficiently, you know,
well,
which is my fear is they just hire a bunch of, you know, but a bunch of money is going to, you know, to teachers unions. Yeah. Money is not, kids can't go to school. It's too dangerous. You know, like I want my kid to be learning, going to school, learning STEM. My daughter's going to coding today. We use ChatGPT regularly.
That's awesome.
You know, and I think there needs to be personal responsibility on the case of the parents too, to make sure it's happening.
I think so. But I also look at my relationships with private schools in Ohio, and I look at them and they will do anything that they will use any tool they can get to provide a better experience. And I like my private schools around me. If I wasn't homeschooling my kids, I would totally send my kids to the local private school. And I look at how they are very aggressive. They had a STEM program before my local public schools do.
Wow.
Did. They do. My local public schools have STEM and they do coding camps and things like that now, but the private school was doing them 3 years before the public schools were. And I look at the private schools and I say, well, they have access to the exact same tools as the public schools. So if public schools are 3 times more efficient due to AI, there's no reason the private school can't. And then in that world, you will have some level of competition like you do now. But I just look at whether it's healthcare, education, whatever it is, AI is going to make everything so much more efficient so long as people keep innovating, which I don't see why we won't. It's going to bring about just all these changes. And like, you had your list. What do you want me to talk about? And my center point of what I'm doing now is using or moving to a position where I can use AI in these old blue-collar businesses to amplify the earnings. Let's take your average laundromat in the United States, because everybody watches me for laundromats. Makes $125,000 per year in top-line revenue, gross revenue. The average profit margin's 45%. And if I can remember my math right, that's $57,500 a year in
pre-tax income.
Pre-tax income, NOI. So are there ways to improve both top line and bottom line income inside a laundromat through AI? And the answer is absolutely 1,000%. How do you do it? How don't you do it? Everybody talks to me about the fact, I want to own a laundromat because it's automated. And it's like, kind of.
It doesn't seem automated to me.
It isn't. And people I've sadly helped people get laundromats and then walked them through, almost physically took them by the hand. Here's how we will get you a laundromat. And then at the end of the day, they're like, well, I didn't want to do any work. And I'm like, no, you need to do work. You need to go collect the money. It's not with the people that I've helped, but it's not with any of my students, but it's with my students encountering people. They don't want to go collect the money. It's too much work for them to go to a laundromat and go and pick up $5,000 in cash. Well, I want to automate it. Like, you don't have 30 minutes to go collect your money because it's jamming up the machines because they're overflowing with dollar bills. The bill stacker's too big. I don't want to do it. And it's like, no, okay. That's the last thing that you should automate, first off. But then you do need to have somebody in charge to make sure that everything's running efficiently. And they think it's all about collecting quarters, and it's not about making the right hires. But now in laundromats, those hires, some of them can be outsourced. For instance, like we go back to my example of $125,000 for the average laundromat. What keeps it from the average laundromat at 50% median in the middle. What keeps the average median laundromat from being in the top 20%? The top 20% is doing about $500,000 a year. So, and you think, oh, it must be bigger, it must have better comp. Not really. The top 20% laundromats care about their customers and all the stuff it entails. So if you think about a customer-centric business, because churches and laundromats are the top two entities in the United States where people spend the most time a week. Churches tend to be number one. Laundromats tend to be number two. If you look at the total hours spent on their average person.
That's reassuring. I would have guessed bars. So it's reassuring that churches and
laundromats. And you look at, it's a very customer-centric business and making your customers happy. Okay, well, how can I implement inside my business, ChatGPT specifically, even 3.5? How can I use ChatGPT 3.5 to engage my customers, make them happy? Well, first thing I can do is make them feel heard. How can I make a customer feel heard? Well, what I can do is I can post posters all over my facility. Is something wrong? Do you need help? Do you have a problem? Do you have a complaint? Do you have a positive review? Text this number. Use this QR code. Let's talk about how to make this the best laundromat in this community. So then they send a text to me, and I have a Zap integration, and I connect it to ChatGPT. And I did just really basic training. You are a laundromat owner, and here are different problems that you can encounter. Here's the answer to these. So we've done some AI training. It was phenomenal. On the very first iteration of go screw yourself. I just put $5 in the change machine. This effing place is taking my money, you thief. How does ChatGPT? I couldn't have wrote a better response than that.
Very good negative message. Respond negative message.
Wonderful. Yeah. Extreme negative. Dear sir, I'm sorry that you encountered this. It's my absolute goal to give you the best laundromat experience. Send over your address. We'll send you a refund immediately. Furthermore, this isn't supposed to happen, so I'm thankful that you reached out to us. And it wrote this great response. And I thought that would absolutely make my customer feel heard and valuable. And all these laundromats spend $20, $25 to get a new customer in the door. So once you got a customer coming in the door, it costs $25 to go out and get a new one, if not more. Some locations, some markets, it's $50 to $100 to keep them, to get a new customer in the door. And here I can use ChatGPT for, I don't even know how much that API call cost. 1/4 of a penny.
It's not much. That cost will be decreasing too.
Yeah, it does every day.
But I am curious. You talked about using Zapier, which is basically a way of automating and connecting apps together. Walk me through how you set up that Zapier, because this stuff, I love this stuff.
Okay. We used Twilio.
Okay.
For to get a phone number. We use their API connected to the Zap because I don't know how to do anything. We use Zap to connect to ChatGPT. Mm-hmm. And ChatGPT has a model based off of what information I fed it, and then it provides a response, because I just use Zap because it's easy, and it just provides a response to that person.
Back to
Twilio, and then it aggregates data to Google spreadsheets. So I or one of my administrators can log in and see where the tracked responses are and where the problems are, if there's problems.
So you'll get a notification. That's where you will say, okay, ChatGPT said we're going to send you a refund.
It goes to my office person who has the authorization to write a $5 refund.
Do you add them to like an email campaign after that? Or say, what's your birthday? We'll send you.
We're working on that now. I got that for my it's so silly. I got it for my car washes. I don't have it for my laundromat because the laundromat isn't automated yet. This is one of those other things. For me to automate the payment systems at my laundromat today, it's $25,000. I can get that down to about $5,000.
Well, how are you going to do that? What's the goal?
Using Raspberry Pis as credit card readers. Credit card readers and that system for laundromats is just exorbitant. We're working with a company now. They're not using Raspberry Pis. They're using something else, but it's they'll take us down to $7,000 to automate the laundromat, and I think that I can get it down to $5,000 because a lot of these firms are like realizing they're going to have their lunch eaten from anybody that has ChatGPT and an Amazon account. They can go build their own credit card readers. They can go out and do all these things. And it's going to eat their lunch if they don't.
And this is, to me, is like the big opportunity over the next 24 months is identifying the good software programs that are competitive and can compete. So you don't have to be paying out 3% processing fees, 5%, decreasing those costs is going to be a big deal.
It's decreasing the costs, building customer retention, just going in and looking at where the opportunities are to make money. Like, it's no secret. If a laundromat has a 3-star review on Google, no one that has access to cell phones is going to use your laundromat. Now, if you have 5-star reviews or 4.2-star reviews, and like you've got good aggregated reviews, and your customers realize that it's clean, safe, affordable, and you're not going to get screwed on your money, your advertising dollars are amplified severely. And you can do that through just customer retention automations. And it's like where we don't have the integration for the laundromat, we have it for my car wash. And I can go in and see where we've done a customer loyalty program. My great example that I pull with my my coaching clients and my students is last time we had the county fair in Circleville. It generates so much dust, the town feels like it's covered. And we did this DM text campaign, and we said, we know your car's filthy from the fair. I said, if you're, it was this real funny post. We took a picture of a car, and we wrote, well, it was my van that's sitting out there right now. We wrote "wash me" on the back windshield. So, wash me. If your car looks like this from the fair, come on down to Royal Car Wash. Use code 1986 for a free 20% off. And we tracked the sales, and that one post was worth $5,000.
Wow.
That one send out to our customers was worth $5,000 because we tracked $5,000 in coupon redemptions, or $5,000 worth of sales were tied to that code. So, it was 10% off. We had, $800 worth of redemptions. We would have had $500 worth of redemptions for if it's 10% off. It would have been $1,000 worth of redemptions. It was $5,000, but we made $5,000 off of it. And it was just like, it's so easy to do. And if I was on my car wash game as much as I should be, we'd be doing those promotions every other week. We're not, because I'm doing so many other things right now.
Sure. But I mean, just the idea of like, scan this QR code, leave us your review, that automates. Are you using ChatGPT in any more of these Zapier automations in your business? Because this is the type of stuff that I think as you start to experiment and figure it out, just changes everything.
It's the big thing of, I think that people need to build a mindset of just asking, like, how could I automate this process? Is it automatable? Like, when it comes to repair staff, can I use ChatGPT to help them be more efficient at their job? Well, they've got to replace a belt on a Dexter 20-pound washer. Could we run that through ChatGPT and just ask it real quick? Is there an easier way to replace the belt on this machine quicker? It might not. One of the better integrations that we ran into was I'm not doing this enough. My friend has built a business off of it. He probably made $1 million off of it just last year, is using ChatGPT to get a material list together for a property rehab. ChatGPT, he's got a voice to text system too. So voice, I use Otter. He's not using Otter. He's using something else. I use Otter to transcribe voice to text really well. And it was, okay, we're in a studio right now. It is this studio where we're recording the podcast, I'm going to guess, is 10 feet wide. You've got 12-foot ceilings in here. Do you know specifically?
I think 12 feet is
12-foot ceilings. Okay, 10-foot wide, 12-foot ceilings. You got 6-inch crown molding at the top. Our length, we're 14 feet long. I need to replace every wall in this. Please calculate how many sheets of drywall I need, how many screws I need. Tell me how many pounds that is. Can you find me Menard's SKU numbers and prepare an order that I can send to my rep? And it's like, he showed me it. He's like, boom, here it is.
So how's that $1 million business? Is he like creating a software built off of?
He is literally asking ChatGPT these questions to make his rehabs faster, to where he gets an itemized task list when he walks in to a property in Cincinnati, Ohio, of how much is it going to cost me?
Wow.
Down to the screws in the wall to replace every wall in the house. How many gallons of paint does it need? How many sheets of drywall do we need? How many tiles do we need for the vinyl flooring? How many square feet of carpet? How many square feet of padding? How many truckloads is this going to take? Itemized. And every time he's doing this to quickly iterate through on flipping houses in the Cincinnati area, and he's making $200,000 a pop. And because he was able to know within 1 hour walking through a house, rather than getting all these contractor bids, which can be a multi-week deal, it's the ability to work fast. I can get a competent, reasonably accurate bid in 1 day.
Well, that's the question, is how accurate is it going to be? Because sometimes ChatGPT can make up some wonky stuff. You need to.
Correct.
And I think that's kind of where AI is going to really shine, at least where we're at now, is the expert can see, oh, that number looks off, or they can say, okay.
Yeah. So when I say ChatGPT will spit out a result fast, but then you send the bid sheet or whatever to different contractors, and that's where he's shining. Here's a general contractor, Steve. Here is the work list. That's all itemized. Beautiful report that ChatGPT wrote out. What's your bid? How much are you going to charge me for labor? Not materials, because I know exactly what the materials are going to cost. What's your labor fee going to be? There's exactly 50 outlets that need replaced. Will you replace an outlet for $3? Oh, yeah, I'll replace an outlet for $3. I've had contractors bid $50 per, like after it's all said and done, charge me $50 to replace one outlet in the house.
Wow.
And he's like, yeah, because I know exactly. There's 50 outlets. There's 2 screws. Here's what the screws are going to cost me. ChatGPT's itemized. It should take 5 minutes to replace an outlet. Unscrew 2 screws, pull cover off, replace outlet, make sure the breaker's off.
That's how you renovate a house, like super fast.
Super fast.
Unreal.
And so it's like, we can replace an outlet for $3 in labor. You're providing the outlet cover. You're providing the receptacle. We don't have to replace the wiring. The wiring's good in the house. The assumption is, yes, the wiring's good. If the wiring is not good, then we need to come in and do a rebid. And it's like $1 million last year off that idea of let's just see if ChatGPT can do it. And it's not that ChatGPT can do everything, but it automated a very significant process in there. And it's allowed him to bid on properties quicker, get more bids. And it's why it's like, in a nutshell, $1 million idea.
Probably pretty close to actually doing the shopping and the purchasing for you too, if you empower it. Especially, Amazon, Google, Facebook, they start implementing more AI tools. Yeah. You say, hey, this is what I need. It could go and kind of be like your shopping assistant. Amazon's great. If you don't like the product, or if you get too many or not enough, or it's the wrong, you can always return it. Yeah. And then just having AI kind of handle all that.
Yes.
That seems like a no-brainer too.
There's a lot of money in the real estate world and any world of moving fast, because now you can get out the forefront. You can bid quicker than the guy that has more money than you, but is slow. And now you're in the forefront. You got the offer accepted quicker before anybody else, because they weren't sure that they didn't know exactly what it needed. But you knew the list of what needed to be done in it quicker than everybody else did. And it's just one of those things where I run into this stuff and it's just a wide open field. But we look at, you look at real estate and you can automate shopping lists and material lists and things like that. You look at laundromats and you can automate customer response, because your customers are, typically lower income, lower educated. They don't have a lot of money to spend. You can automate a lot of the relationship facilitation with them, making them feel like you do care, making them feel like their hand's being held during the process, and making sure they have a good experience. You can get a car wash and automate your promotions and things like that, and running, essentially a mini sales funnel, and bringing them in on newsletters and customer retention programs. And that's just like, okay, so the laundromat industry, $6 billion a year in revenue. The car wash industry is $20 billion a year in revenue. The construction industry is a $2 trillion a year industry. I run into people that they're just using all these different automations, and it's like, you don't, in my mind thinks about this, you don't have to have the next $10 million automation. You don't have to have a $10 million tool. You need to figure out, how do I improve the value of this thing by X amount of percent. Yesterday when I was in West Palm Beach, I ran into a guy. I posted on my Instagram story, I'm in West Palm Beach. Who wants to get together? And there's a guy, he said, I build tables. And I'm like, that's cool. I want to see how you build. I love people that build things with their hands. I'm like, I will drive to your house and let's see you build these tables in your garage. Wow, they're $2,500 tables. Nice. Can we make them $20,000 tables? And it's like, he's like, I don't think we can. I said, yes, we can. We can make a $20,000 table. We can make it worth $20,000. I said, you're building them by hand, right? Yeah. I said, they're gorgeous. Yeah. Does anybody know how much it costs in materials to make them? No. Cool. Let's keep that a secret. And let's talk about your craftsmanship and why someone should pay $20,000 for a table. I just don't know how it could be worth it. I said, well, we figured out, we sat down and did some brainstorming how we can put these in some $2-3 million houses in West Palm Beach, and we can get a marketing campaign set up, and we can get you a lot of press on these tables you're making. I think we could take these from being worth $2,500 to $3,000 up to $25,000. Yeah, we could. So then we had this conversation about, I think for this guy, making $20,000 table is probably the right choice. But I said, there's another way to do this. We can, you can make, if you're making, let's say you sell them for, let's do easy numbers. Let's say the cost $500 to make and you're selling them for $1,000. You don't think you can do any better. You're making $500 a table. And let's say you want to make $5,000 a month. So you need to sell 10 tables at $500 a month to make $5,000, 10 tables, $500 a piece, $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. Let's say you want to make $60,000 a year off this business. Well, now we need to figure an easy way to find people to assemble them or some systems and processes to make these very easy. And that's a situation where ChatGPT could help you do, automations could help you get automated material lists, help you communicate with people that might be interested in building some tables in their backyard for $100 in profit. I'll guarantee you $100 an hour, just build me one table. And it's still handmade. And it's just we didn't talk about automation a ton, but I look at businesses that there's so many opportunities out there to help build a better workflow or just to be curious and ask questions. Because I run into the problem is a lot of people, as they get older, unfortunately, they get less curious and they stop asking questions. And that's like my example is my top YouTube video. My top video ever has 175 million views last day, if memory serves me right. And it's at my laundromat with he was 8 years old at that point, my now 9-year-old son. And you read through, and I aggregate my viewer sentiment. Why did that video do so well with my kid in it? It's because he's cute. Kinda. Is it because he's curious and asks his dad questions? Yeah. That's the real reason that it did so well. Because I get all these, I love when your kids are in your videos, Brandon, because they ask the questions I feel too stupid to ask. Like, well, if there's no stupid questions, then ask away. And that's where in my own social media business, I'm trying to figure out how do I use our AI to answer more questions, because 90% of people have the same questions.
Have you made a GPT yet? Your own custom GPT chatbot?
I've got a bunch of iterations, and we're having a problem integrating ChatGPT with the way that I want it to work. Because my big goal this year in 2024 is I want to build. It's not a podcast, but I want to build a show, and we're almost there right now. We're testing out all the bits and pieces when I get back to Ohio, where I want to make people feel like they are in the laundromat or in the car wash working with me. I have a lot of people that request, I wish I could just come to Ohio and spend a day with you. It's like, we can do that with social media and automation. So I want people to feel like they're actually there working on a machine with me. They're there talking to the customer.
Well, how would you do that? They're going to put on like their VR, Oculus, or Apple Vision goggles or something?
Yeah,
are you going there?
It's not that. It's just a live stream for one full day. And you have the ability to ask me questions. And then there's a guy my cameraman has an earpiece, and he says, Brandon, Mike from Florida asked you, why did you not do XYZ here? And people feel like they're heard, they're seen, that they're getting their questions answered. But then ultimately I want to have automations in there when people ask questions that I've already answered.
No, that's a cool. I'm super cool idea. Obviously, I think you could pull that off now. But the big question is that automation. The problem with the GPTs, the way they're set up now, is if you don't have a pro membership, you can't actually use the GPTs. Not everyone has ChatGPT Pro, although frankly, it's the most powerful tool in the history of humanity.
It's so cheap for what you get. It's so cheap.
$20 a month, it's
just do it.
Just do it.
You already paid that for Netflix and Hulu.
But the big problem I have is someone who's in marketing, and we want to be accurate, because if you're inaccurate, that's a problem. I see it as a way. I see AI, at least in 2024. My goal is, how can I incorporate more automation, more AI to empower team members, to empower 1099-WEs? How do I empower people with the tech? Because if you have someone who's smart, can do critical thinking on the back end, they should be able to spot, well, this doesn't look right, or that doesn't feel right, or let me talk to Mark about it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, like, if we're talking about customer facing, and my customers are people that watch my videos, I like transparency. And it's one of those things where I'm an assistant for Brandon. You don't have to know that it's a chatbot, but they can know, hey, I'm Brandon's assistant. You posted this comment in the feed on TikTok, and I think that this video that Brandon made 3 weeks ago, 1 month ago, 2 years ago, might help you with that question. If it doesn't, let me know. I'll send it up the food chain to Brandon and see if it will be more accurate, or we can provide you a better video. Then additionally, if it's wrong, then we have some flags on the account and say, oh, because there will be a human watching all the comments. But if ChatGPT can make that one human in Portsmouth, Ohio, more effective, reading through the comments, highlighting the great ones that are great questions, I need to answer it. And then the low-level questions that everybody asks are just automated.
Are you sending these, because you have all this distribution? I'm just kind of curious how you're leveraging the attention. Are you sending people into like email nurture campaigns and then trying to customize that with AI?
We are now. AI is helping me. The biggest implementation for me on AI is to make people feel like I'm paying attention to them.
Right.
And it's, and the reality is because I don't pay attention to them, because I don't have a good way to aggregate what needs to be answered. That's my biggest problem. I want, like I said early in the podcast, my goal is really to help everybody. But just because I have this desire and intention to help people doesn't mean they get helped. I've read a lot of people that say, I want to do this with my life. I want to help people. I want to do this, this, and this. And then you meet them 10 years later, they haven't done anything. And it's like they had the intention, they had the desire, they had the idea, but they never implemented it. And I know for me, my problem's it's never the ideas. It's the implementation.
The execution, yeah.
And so if I can get AI to help me just get the ball farther down the field with the implementation, I'll do everything I want to do in life. I got all these great ideas, but the implementation sucks. But if I can make the right hires, and I can get the right people on my team to come in, and there's things that we can do with leveraging AI in my conversations with people. There will be days where a piece of content will go viral and I'll have 5,000 comments or DMs. And in a situation like that, we had an automation go out 2 weeks ago. If you want to go take a look it's on my Facebook. I had 1,400 comments in 24 hours on one video, one picture. And we were able to directly engage every single person there.
How did you hire Gary Vaynerchuk? Because he's like, I respond to every comment. Because how could you possibly respond to all those comments? I mean, it's a good problem to have.
No, there's no way.
But you use AI to engage them.
We've just built some keywords and said, hey, if they respond with the XYZ sentiment, let's send them this message. I want you to provide a random set, or make sure each response is unique. But I want their email address.
Yeah, you want that email, yeah.
Give me that email. So we generated 1,400 comments that day, and I ended up with 535 email submissions.
And how are you getting the email submissions? The AI, you're programming the AI chatbot to say, hey, we want, because if you say our primary goal for the engagement is to answer question and get the email, they give you the email address, then that goes into your Google Sheet. Right. And then that can be uploaded to your CRM.
Yeah, my CRM, to the nurture campaign. So that's how it worked. And it worked really, really well. So then what the idea is, a lot of people understand the purpose of lead magnets. And what I'm trying to do is create some all-encompassing lead magnets and say, hey, give me your email address because this is the value that I want to provide for you. And I think the lead magnets, free courses, free training, free software, free things like that. But then it's also like, well, we'd like you to be on the show.
Yeah.
And there's no way for me to contact you outside of Facebook, outside of TikTok, outside of YouTube, outside of Instagram, unless I have your email address.
That's kind of like Mr. Beast's plan. Like, do you want to get a chance to be on Mr. Beast's show? We need your email so we can let you know when the spots are open. Because frankly, in my experience, it's really hard to make a lead magnet work good. Yeah. But you sell what you've got. If it's get on a calendar appointment with me, if it's get a chance to be on Investment Joy, you sell the value that people want.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where if you can do it at scale and you can automate it so that I know these people that they make tons of money, but they have 20 VAs in the Philippines answering every single DM, answering every single comment with a custom, unique response. And I was very close to doing that till I finally got it to work on my Facebook campaign. And then it was because I knew someone had done it. I'm not going to say who, because they're my competitor, but I saw that they were automating everything and they were doing so much engagement. I started asking people, like, how is she doing this? And then someone came and said, oh, here's the bits and pieces that you have to put together to get the automation to fire correctly with ChatGPT. And I did it, and I did a test post with 1,400 comments and 535 email opt-ins. And it's like, made some money that day.
Yeah.
Nice. And it's like, okay, so now we've got this point and let's try to figure out how to scale it. And ultimately what I want to do is go through all of my social media channels, because if we add all that together, it's 6 million followers and I have over 1 billion video views now. So now that I've got the reach, how do I start to do the same thing with my customers at the laundromats? No different. How do I start to build deeper relationships with these people? How on social media? How do I make them feel like I care? Because it's not that I don't care. I care about my subscribers and viewers and people that I run into so much. It's like Kevin on the cruise ship. Cruise ship Kevin, hope you're watching. You encouraged me to buy a claw machine, and now my wife and I have this side business. He's like, I watched that video that you did, and he rattled off. I have no clue what he's talking about. I have no idea what he watched. I don't think I've ever done a video on a claw machine. I don't think I've ever recommended on TikTok or YouTube that you go out and buy a claw machine. It's not something that I would recommend because you can make money on them. But he took some bit of information, he implemented it, and he's great. The thing was, though, he's like, I have one question for you. And I'm like, he's like, I've been dying to ask somebody of your authority this question. Should I quit my day job? Because it sounds like you're telling me I should. Like, what do you do? He's like, I work for an HVAC company. We fix heating and cooling units. I was like, no, don't do that. He's like, really? I would have thought that some guy on YouTube would have told me to quit my day job. Just go quit your day job, because then it's do or die. I'm like, you got a wife and kid.
Yeah.
Like, no, I don't want you to uproot your family.
The scary thing, though, is if someone puts that much importance on Brandon's advice, and then Brandon.ai says, you know what? Yeah, Brandon went all in. You should go all in. And so you've got to find that level. Correct. Which, by the way, I think that AI, that engagement is really powerful, because people say, "Oh, well, you lose the authenticity," but I think it helps us to be more authentic in a way, because
it does, because you're telling people you care, even if you had a ChatGPT implementation and it responded with "I care."
Yeah,
it would be revolutionary for a lot of people.
Well, and at the same time, even if it doesn't work great, that gives you the opportunity to make it better, because perfection is the enemy of progress.
It is.
You need to start. And I heard Patrick Bet-David talk about this the other day. He's like, in the past, you had to learn about 10 to 15 skills every 5 years. Now it's like, you got to learn 20 skills in 18 months, because things are moving so quick. Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, for the implementation side, I know somebody with Patrick Bet-David's level of authority, and they do, I'm not going to say who it is because they charge for this advice a lot of money too. And they said that more or less the number one thing, the absolute epitome of, do you want to make money off people? It's respond to them quickly and make sure they feel like they got hurt. And it was like, what do you mean? Like, are you selling yachts? Make your customers get their response immediately. We're buying this company in Chicago. If you're in Chicago and you want to come work for me, let me know. But this company in Chicago, and it's selling a product that is $500,000. Like our average product for this company is going to be, it's around $500,000. It's probably closer to 350, but it's this extravagantly expensive thing we're building at a company. And for customer acquisition, the number one result is speed, making your customer feel like they're heard. And we talked about it. Are we going to use ChatGPT on it? Absolutely. If no one will pick up the phone, no one will answer a text, then ChatGPT has to be there.
At least put them on ice.
At least do something. Because if they submit that contact form, I hate contact forms. If it submits a contact form and they've tried to engage with us some way and they don't have a response within 30 seconds, we have totally failed. Because they're going to call our competitor, and then they're going to call the competitor after that. And they're going to keep calling our enemies, our competitors, our the people we don't want to make money. They're going to call these other companies till someone picks up the stupid phone, till someone responds to that stupid text, till somebody responds to that email. And it's like, while I'm here in Southeast Florida, I called 3 separate co-working facilities. I texted 3 separate co-working facilities. And they're these STEM companies. Come work with us. We're aggressive. We've got an office space for you to rent. None of them responded.
Wow.
None of them had any sort of integration.
You get like a generic email like, we'll get back to you within 12 to 24 hours.
You can buy a day pass to our facility. You can come work with us today, but it's going to be 72 hours to respond to me, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when I was scheduling to bring you in, Brandon, I was like, how am I going to spin this into how AI is changing the world and evolving business? You're doing an historically very manual style labor, car washes, laundromats, mobile home parks, vending machines. But the way that you're focusing on using AI to enhance the customer experience, using automation to get it there faster, that's the game.
Yeah.
That's the game.
Yeah, it is on any company or anything where you're selling something.
Yeah.
And if you expound on that, everybody's selling something.
Everybody.
If you are working at Walmart, you run your own business of selling your time to Walmart Corporation. Everybody's selling something. And if you can figure a way to sell your something better, then how much of a game changer is that?
Especially if you're first.
Especially if you're first. And you know what? I'd hate to be last, but it's okay being in the middle. If with this being such a revolutionary technology, and I'm talking about artificial intelligence, I just want to make sure I'm in there doing it. Who cares if you're first place? It's going to be a trillionaire. Yeah. Telling you, AI is going to make trillionaires over this decade.
Yeah,
between now and 2030, it's going to make a lot of billionaires, and it's going to make an obscene level of millionaires, guaranteed. But the story that I love hearing is I love Microsoft Excel. I love Excel. I like Excel enough. I've watched a couple of documentaries of it. That's terrible, isn't it? Did you know that on Twitch they have a gaming? I don't know if you ever watch gaming channels, but they have Excel competitions where there's Excel people fighting against each other to build automations and fix spreadsheets quicker.
Wow. No, that's
this is the nerdiest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, oh, this is worse than like a coding competition because it's Excel. But I watched this one documentary. It had Bill Gates in it, and it had his first customer. It was the first customer for the original version of Excel called VisiCalc. Bill Gates bought VisiCalc off a guy that made essentially the spreadsheet automation, and they interviewed Bill Gates, and he's like, "Oh, I screwed that guy that had VisiCalc. I screwed him 6 ways for Sunday." That's really what he's saying. I made billions off Excel. And they interviewed the guy with VisiCalc, and he said, "I made hundreds of thousands of dollars off Bill Gates. Changed my life because I made this one computer program, and I sold it to him, and we made all this money." And then they found the first guy that bought it. He said, "I screwed both those guys over. I screwed Bill Gates over. I screwed the VisiCalc guy because I was at some open public forum in Silicon Valley back in the 70s, and this guy that wrote VisiCalc was there, and he was showing me how you could do spreadsheets. And this guy was a CPA, and he looked at him. He said, "Can that thing be hooked to a printer?" "Yeah." "Okay, we can do a printer for it." And he said, "I'll buy it right now." And the guy said, "What do you mean? It's not for sale." And he said, "How much is it to buy that computer with a printer and your software?" And the guy said, "I don't even know." He said, "It's not for sale." He said, "I'll give you $5,000 cash right now." And the guy said, "Bring your car." It was like,
wow.
And they talked to the VisiCalc guy, the VisiCalc Excel, and he said, "That guy was an idiot. He paid me $5,000 for a $500 computer, a $200 printer, and a program we ultimately sold for $50." And they go to the CPA and said, "I was the first guy in Silicon Valley to have a computer with automated spreadsheets." And he said, "I went in on Monday and I typed in my commands for that week, and we automated the entirety of my CPA company."
Wow.
I can't remember how many years he didn't work. He would go in on Mondays for 15 minutes, type in a command prompt, and then he would leave and he would go golfing, and he didn't work anymore because of that one automation. Because they had the foresight to say, "I can automate my spreadsheets," and had $5,000 cash in his pocket. And it's like, he was the first.
And you know what's great? He solved a problem that he had, which I think is a great way to. That's the way I'm looking at AI this year. Is
if you can figure out how to solve your problems or somebody else's problem, that's really. I talk to these people like, "Oh, you're so money. All your content has money and quarters and dollars and stuff." I said, it's kind of weird for a guy that really immediately admits that money doesn't exist. What do you mean? Like, it's just a picture of a dead president on a dollar bill. It's not the money, it's the value. Everything is finding a way to provide other people value. That's all it is. Whether you're selling your time to a W-2 employer like a Walmart or McDonald's, you're giving them value. They're giving you value back in the terms of cotton and paper notes with pictures of dead presidents on them. You're exchanging value. All the money out there is in exchanging value with other people. And if you can find a way to build value to other people, you'll get whatever you're worth. And going back to my example of building tables in West Palm Beach, if there's a value for a $20,000 table, if you build that value, the value's there. If you can go in to your local laundromat guy and explain to them, you have a problem with your bad Google reviews, let me automate your responses to fix them. Let me help you automate this. There's going to be tons of money in that. During coronavirus, I saw a lot of people build businesses on installing plexiglass sneeze guards at businesses. I ran into a guy within the first month or two on TikTok. He built $1 million business in New York City building plastic sneeze guards from plexiglass. He bought every piece of plexiglass that he could find, like in the Manhattan area, so he could build those they're glorified sneeze guard things between people and their customers. But millions of dollars because he got in there quick, and he just said there's a problem that needs to be solved due to the pandemic. And we talk about automation, we talk about AI, we talk about these things, but the root of it all is becoming a problem solver. If you can find how to solve other people's problems and find a way to get compensated, that's all you have to do.
Well, I want to personally challenge everyone watching, listening, everyone out there in the world. This is the time to solve problems. Brandon's solving problems. I'm solving problems. You can definitely get it all at Investment Joy on the YouTube. Brandon, where else can we find you?
I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, everything but Snapchat under Investment Joy. I wish I could tell you what to do. I've got multiple shows on Snapchat, but they're under other brand names. So if you see a guy with a laundromat corners on Snapchat, that's me too.
Making moves, automating, chatting, AIing.
Yep. It's a great time to be involved in this level of technology, but the only word of caution is don't delay. Get into it now.
Yeah.
And you'll probably fail at your first project. It's okay. Just keep doing it. And if you keep sticking on with it and you keep working at it and trying to get a little bit better, it'll be yours. You'll do fine.
Along that note, I produced 800 YouTube videos before YouTube started sending my money. 800 videos to hit my first 1 million views to start getting paid by YouTube. So it takes a hot minute.
It takes time. It takes effort. going back to my YouTube story, I bought a stupid freaking train station and we refurbished it, and I did a YouTube series on it. No one watched it. No one cared. And it's like, at that point, I felt like a huge failure. Here's this great project. Who wouldn't want to see a train station renovated? Well, I tell you who. People that don't understand that your sucky thumbnail, your bad title, and your terrible video, no one wanted to watch it, and they didn't.
You gotta put in some effort. The execution.
You've got to. Number one, you have to do it. Whatever it is, you have to just start trying it. And you have to resolve yourself to get better. And you can only get better through some level of consistency and putting the effort forward. If you do that, that is it. I wish, I say this as one of my big ideas, I wish I could buy stock in people. Like not in their company. I want to buy stock in people. Because I see people like in the social media world, and it's like, this person will be famous. And I've done it with a lot of people on TikTok and a lot of people on YouTube. This person will be a star. This will be their full-time job in 1 year.
Maybe that's a new business.
Maybe
I don't know if that's legal or not.
There's got to be a way to do it. But I've seen it with so many people, and I'm very rarely wrong. And it's like, I was thinking about that on the way over. What would it like? Because I get people all the time messaging me wanting to be famous. I was walking around the subdivision where Airbnb is, and I ran into an 82-year-old lady that was an actress back in the 60s. I'm like, of course, I'm in Florida where all the retirees are. And I just want to hear some of these people's life stories. She was an actress in the 60s. And she was telling me about her grandson who wants to be a musician. I was like, oh, good luck, buddy. It's, I'm like, I had this conversation with her. She's like, I know it's really hard to make money in music. And I'm like, it is, because everybody in music doesn't do business because they don't understand the fundamental building blocks of what it takes to build a career and make money in something. If you want to do it as a passion project, great. No one might hear you, and you could be ultra talented. I know people who are ultra talented in the music world. No one knows who they are. And I was having this great conversation with her, and I was talking about just do the building blocks, because if we go back to my wanting to buy stock on people, there are these musicians that I run into on TikTok with like 5,000 followers. I'm like, this person's going to be famous within 1 year. This person is a star. And it's like, and it's not because their music's better. It's not because they're more talented. It's because they're consistent. And every video is getting better. They're seeing what works, and they're doing more of it, and they're trying new things. They're trying to. It's like you. You started off doing videos about VAs, and you didn't want to be that person doing only VA. Now you're trying AI, and it's working great for you. And then there's potential for you to go out into other things. And if you remain consistent and you iterate to get a little better over time, you'll be fine. Because I run into so many people that want to pay me, even some of them big bucks. Help me be a star on YouTube or TikTok. That's fine. How many hours do you have a week to dedicate towards? Well, I don't have hardly any time. Sorry. You're out of luck. Why?
But I think that's a problem too. I think people kind of get trapped into, well, I was at a conference recently, and one of the questions that was asked in the conference is, think about what your greatest opportunities and your greatest leaks are. Leaks meaning, where am I coming up short? And I was talking to a guy afterward. I was like, well, I think one of my leaks is I need to, use more automation, or I need to hire more. And, I need a clear vision of where I want to be spending my time. I was like, what's your leak? He's like, well, I'm not famous. I just need to be famous. Yeah. And I think that gives you, bring it back to the beginning with incentive structures. Mm-hmm. If your incentive is to get famous, I think it leads to bad decision making.
Oh, terrible decision making.
And complete disappointment. Mm-hmm. Because, comparison is the thief of joy. If you're like, if only I was famous, yeah. I don't think it works that way.
It doesn't. And I run into so many people, and I'm like, even if you do achieve what you want, your heart's going to be broken.
Yeah.
It's going to destroy you.
Because you got to love the process.
You've got to find joy in whatever you do. And it's like, if you would have asked me as an 18-year-old young adult, will you be passionate about real estate in the future? I would have said, there's no way I'll be passionate about real estate. I've been in real estate since 2006. I am still passionate about real estate because I started finding joy in whatever it is I did. I started finding joy in talking to drug addicted tenants and people at my laundromat. I found joy in dealing with leaky roofs. I found joy in just whatever the process is, because if you can find some joy and say, I want to have some joy, I want to be passionate about this because it's worth doing. You've got to find some level of reason. But if you find that level of reason and you build some joy up, you build some passion up, I don't care if you are working at McDonald's and you can build some joy and some passion and that passion and joy will by nature, I think, force you to become better at whatever it is you do. It's like you'll do great. But if you can't have any joy and you can't have passion, whatever you do, I don't care whether you're famous.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember who was Hulk Hogan. There we go. He was on Joe Rogan recently, and he was talking about his religious conversion. And Joe said, I'm surprised that you're having a religious experience. And he said, well, I've tried everything out in life, and I found that it didn't really make me happy. I've had everything. And now I'm finally finding peace in religion. And I don't want to harp on that too much, would love to, but I find that mindset is what kills so many people's life, because they think that they're going to find all the joy in a thing. Fame, money. People find that joy and passion. They think they'll find that joy in a person, in another human being.
Women, yeah.
Women, drugs. They think they'll find it. I've run into people that have kids, and they think, if I could just have some kids. I just had a kid. It would, and people, if I could just, they think that their joy is going to be found in something. It's not found in something. In pursuit. I was at church this last weekend, and our pastor said something that really struck. I shared this with you before, and that if you fail to find purpose, you'll settle for pleasure. And that's what I hear from all these things. If I just have money, pleasure. If I just have women, pleasure. If I just have kids, pleasure. If I can just have the big house, pleasure. You're missing that ultimate purpose. Yeah. And it's one of those things where it's just like, and I run into the people, like, if I was just famous, I'm like, you don't need to be famous to doing this.
No.
Now, what's made me semi-famous or demi-famous or known, whatever you want to call having a bunch of subscribers is, it's like, that was never the goal. The goal was to get a message out there, help people, document what I found super interesting, and get better in the process. And that's led me to millions of subscribers, and it's just, it'll continue to grow, I do believe, unless something changes inside me to not want to do it anymore. But it's like, if you just find joy in what you're doing and decide to grow, and I think that joy and passion will ultimately produce that result in you. It becomes its own thing, and then that doing that thing gets a lot easier. I'm not going to ever tell anybody it doesn't require any sacrifice. All the good stuff in life requires some level of sacrifice. But then what happens is the sacrifice becomes easier, and it becomes easier. Nothing worthwhile in life, I think, is like easy.
Easy, because then it's just cheap.
Yeah.
Find your joy, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with Brandon Schlichter. He's found his investment joy. Go find your joy.
Thanks, guys.